Hello everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In this episode, I'm creating a holiday card with the new Snowy Village stencils. All supplies I'm using for this project are listed and linked in the video description below. The Snowy Village is a set of 5 mini stencils. These measure 2.5 by 3.5 inches and create a darling village scene with 3 houses, some trees, and snow. Here is a test background I created ahead of time, and I'm going to show you how to create this or recreate this in today's video. I also paired these stencils with a mini STM set, European Street Add-on. This set includes tiny little images that you can add to the houses to liven up the scene a little bit. It coordinates with a European Street stamp set, but works with these stencils too. And since these are rather small, they have a low price point if your budget is tight. Now, I also have the Holiday Messages stamp set to create the sentiment for my card. I picked this set because of the large Mary, as I love how it grabs attention of the viewer. Since the other images are so small, the very large Mary provides a nice contrast. And lastly, I have a Pawsitively Perfect Craft Tacky Mat from Simon. This is something I plan to use to do my ink blending on. Now, this is an optional product. You don't really need this particular product to make this card, but it certainly does make it easier. I'm first going to remove the clear plastic from one side of the Pawsitively Perfect Craft Tacky Mat. This is going to give me a tacky surface, and I'm going to place a panel of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock over it. So the mat is going to grab the cardstock and hold it in place. You can also remove the clear plastic from the other side of the mat, and this will let you stick your sticky mat onto your desk. I have a glass mat, but I don't want to do this, as I know I will be rotating my cardstock panel as I work on my project. I have already picked ink colors for this project. You can see them off to the side here, and I have my template too. I'm ready to start creating my scene. I have placed the first stencil. These, by the way, they're not numbered. You can ink blend them in any order you want. I'm starting with the houses layer, as that kind of made sense to me. I'm taping just the stencil at the bottom. You can tape it off on all 4 sides if you are a messy blender. I plan to use small blending brushes, so I think I should be fine not taping all 4 sides. Now, my color combo for this card is simple and traditional for Christmas. I have red, green, white, and a touch of brown. I'm using Cranberry ink. This is Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink to ink blend the house in the middle. Now, I did add a little bit of tape to the left of the house to mask off the house on the left, as the gap between these houses is rather small, and I was afraid I would get the red ink onto that other house. Next, I masked the red house and ink blended the other 2 houses using MELON ink color. Now, I did a little bit of directional ink blending here with more ink on the left and less ink on the right. This added a little bit of pretty shading to the card. For the other house, I added directionality from the other side. You can barely see it on the finished card, but I kind of feel like it added a nice touch. Next, I added a layer with the doors and the roofs. For this, I used Cranberry color over the pale yellow houses. Here, I did a solid layer of ink blending, no directionality, no ombre, and I used MOCHA for the red house. When you ink blend these images, you need to keep in mind that you are layering ink on top of another ink color. Meaning, if you ink blend the houses using blue, you cannot have a yellow door, as if you ink blend the door with yellow ink, the yellow will actually turn green. So plan ahead the colors you want to use to make sure that they layer well. You can now begin to see the houses take shape. Next, I added the layer with the windows. This again goes over previously applied ink. So for example, I cannot have yellow window light over the brown house, not unless I use yellow opaque paste, as that would be the only thing that would cover up the brown ink. I used CITRINE ink for the yellow window light over the pale yellow houses and MOCHA ink for the dark window outlines on the red house. The next layer is one with the trees, and this one is very simple. I used PEARFECTION ink and did directional ink blending from the bottom, fading the ink as it got to the top of the trees. And the last layer in this stencil set is one to add snow in front of the houses and snowflakes above in the sky. I used sea glass ink for this to add a touch of blue. And our ink blending is done. This looks like a darling little scene, but if you ask me, it's too simple. It needs detail. The European Streets stamp set comes in handy here as it lets you stamp interesting detail to complete the scene. I used black VersaFine Clear ink and stamped a few images. So first I added the little pennants spawning across two houses. Next, I added a fence to the red house in the center. I stamped the fence on the right and on the left. I also stamped the street light on the ends of my scene. Now I'm overlapping my blending every time I stamp something, and this ties the scene together very nicely. I even added smaller pennants to the tall house and a bare tree next to the fir trees. There is a layer to add leaves to that tree, but since this is a winter scene, the leaves have fallen, so we just have the tree with the branches and no leaves. Isn't that cute? I love the way this looks. I next worked on my sentiment. I first stamped "May Your Christmas Be" in black ink. Here I'm using a Mini Misty stamping tool. Before I was using a clear block as that was just easier to stamp the tiny images. Next, I stamped "Merry" in the same Cranberry ink. And then I finished my sentiment by stamping "and bright" also in black ink. So my sentiment reads, "May your Christmas be merry and bright." I trimmed this panel down as I wanted to mount it onto a sea glass card base. And next I used a white Jelly Roll pen and added white doorknob detail to the doors. I felt like the doors needed the doorknob. And I also added white dots over the trees to mimic snow. Lastly, I foam mounted the panel onto the sea glass card base and added a little bit of red and white baker's twine. It's been a while since I used this twine, and I was excited to incorporate it into my project. So here's a look at the card I have for you today, created with these darling stencils, the Snowy Village stencils from Simon Says Stamp. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this card idea. I hope you feel inspired to create, and we'll give this idea a try. Love you guys, and I'll see you again next time.
I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.